I was standing outside the CEO's office, pushing my cleaning cart, when the words just slipped out. Lord have mercy, this man is about to lose everything. It was barely 9:30 a.m., and I, Ilara Vance, the nightly janitor, was seeing something I absolutely shouldn't have. Through the smoked glass wall of the office, I could see Sterling Thorne, the titan who owned the whole damn Thorne citadel, hunched over his mahogany desk. He looked pale, beaten, like a bronze statue that had just been dragged through the dirt. This was a man whose hands usually commanded empires, but that morning they were just trembling over a single document. He picked up the pen, hesitated, and then he went to sign. My stomach just dropped. Before I could process the feeling, a voice, a raw, stale coffee and bile kind of voice, snapped behind me. "What the hell are you doing, Vance?" It was Barry, my floor supervisor, a man who moved like a freight train and smelled like sour regret. He barreled down the hallway. I stumbled back, trying to smooth out my fear. I'm just doing my rounds, sir?" He spat. "Rounds or spying? People like you are always looking for a shortcut, hoping to sell something to the press, aren't you?" My cheeks burned. I tried to defend myself, but his hand flew up faster than my thoughts, and smack! The sting spread across my face like fire. I crashed back into my cart, a bottle of industrial cleaner clattering loudly on the marble floor. "That'll teach you to mind your place," he growled. I just nodded, whispered, "Yes, sir," and wheeled the cart away, swallowing the shame with every heavy step. A few minutes later, desperate for a breath of air, I ducked back into Sterling's office. He was gone, but the air still held the lingering scent of expensive cologne and fear. The folder was still there. I knew I shouldn't, but I moved closer. The title hit me like a physical blow. Declaration of Corporate Insolvency. Then my eyes landed on the numbers. $64 million in total debt. That couldn't be right. My brow furrowed. I started scanning the creditors list. Companies, lenders, and one name made the whole world stop spinning. Nexus Logistics. My breath caught. Nexus Logistics. They were the same shady company that had ruined my father, Elijah Vance, years ago. Faulty materials, fake invoices, stealing his contracting business right out from under him. My father fought, but no one listened. And 3 years later, he was gone. Heartbreak, I always believed. Now that same company was listed as a creditor for $5.2 million in Sterling's file. It didn't make sense. I ran the math again. $12 million plus $8 million plus $15 million. The total was $47 million, not $64 million. The gap, that $17 million difference, was too clean, too intentional. Someone had padded the debt and they used my father's ghost to do it. My hands shook, thinking of my father's last words to me. If someone had told me sooner, Ilara, I might have thought back. I tore a sticky note from my cart, scribbled the warning. "Mr. Thorne, the numbers on page 7 don't add up. Total debt is 47M, not 64M. Someone's lying. Please double check." And placed it on top of the file. I straightened the papers, wiped the faint smudge of blood from my cheek, and walked out. I clocked out at 7:48 a.m., but didn't leave. I waited in the concrete shadows of the parking garage. The sting on my cheek was a dull throb, but deeper than the fear was a rage. Not just for that morning, but for my father's life. At 9:01 a.m., Sterling Thorne's black sedan pulled in. He looked hollow, nothing like the man on the magazine covers. He passed my hiding spot without noticing, but I hoped, desperately, that he had seen the note. At 9:17 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered in a shaky whisper. "Hello? Miss Vance, this is Sterling Thorne. Are you still in the building?" My throat closed up. I am." His voice was urgent. "Don't leave, please. I need to speak with you right now." Click. Moments later, fast, uneven footsteps echoed down the ramp. And then he was there. In his trembling hand, he held the yellow sticky note. "Was it you?" he asked, his voice cracked. I just nodded. Sterling Thorne, the billionaire CEO, fell to his knees before me, right there on the dusty concrete floor. Tears filled his eyes. "You just saved my life," he whispered. "You saved everything." I stood frozen, my cheek burning. "I didn't mean to intrude," I stammered. He stood up slowly, brushing the dust from his suit pants. "You didn't intrude, Alara. You saved me. I want you in the room when it happens." The elevator ride to the 30th floor was the longest ride of my life. I stood beside him, a janitor with dried blood on her sleeve, and a man whose world I had just put back together. He dialed quickly. "Call Victor Klein. Tell him I want him here at 10 sharp, and pull the security logs before 8 a.m. My stomach turned. Victor Klein was his partner. 15 years of friendship. "If it's not him," I asked softly, "then I'll apologize. But right now, I need to trust my instinct, just like you trusted yours." At 10 a.m. sharp, Victor Klein strode in, silver hair slicked back, a sleek suit, cufflinks gleaming, oozing confidence. He barely glanced at me. "Didn't expect an audience, Sterling. You bringing the cleaning staff into executive meetings now? Very progressive." Sterling didn't flinch. He slowly slid the insolvency folder towards him. "Funny thing, Victor, I decided to reread everything this morning. $64 million in debt, you said. But when I did the math, it came up $47 million. Klein blinked once. "Must be a typo. You've been under pressure." He slid the yellow sticky note across the desk. I didn't notice it, but someone else did. Klein read it. For a split second, his composure cracked. Just a flicker. Then he smirked. "A janitor's prank." "She's not a janitor," Sterling said, his voice sharp. "She's the reason you're not in handcuffs right now." I stood slowly, my knees shaking, but my voice was clear. "I saw the file when I was cleaning. I checked the totals 3 times. It wasn't a mistake. I just didn't want to see someone get tricked the way my father did." He hit a button, and the monitor behind him lit up, showing my cell phone photos of the altered documents side by side with the originals. Then came the final page, Nexus Logistics. "You slipped them in, Victor. They ruined her father, and you used them again. I know the kickback, Victor. You were going to force the bankruptcy, buy the assets for pennies, and walk away clean." Victor rose, his eyes narrowed at me. "You think you can prove this based on a cleaning woman's word? He'll forget your name in 6 months. You'll be back to scrubbing floors for people who don't even look at you." Sterling's voice dropped low, cold. "The FBI's on their way. Get out." The door slammed shut behind him. Sterling looked at me, a long, weary gaze. "He had one thing right," he said softly. "I didn't know your name before today. That's just how I worked, blind." He handed me a crisp sheet of paper. It was a job offer. Junior Audit Analyst, Internal Oversight. Salary, benefits, tuition support, and childcare credit. "I don't have a degree, sir. I've never worked in an office." Sterling smiled. A small, human smile. "Everyone starts somewhere, Alara. I'd rather start someone who knows how to pay attention than someone with a shiny resume and no soul. It's not a favor," he said firmly. "It's justice." I accepted. I walked out of that office, not as a maid, but as Miss Vance.
The new job was hard. I sat through orientations feeling like I barely understood half the jargon. The floor was quiet, clean, and sharp. But the whispers followed me. The janitor miracle, they called me. I overheard Derek Finch, a senior analyst who always wore his arrogance like a freshly pressed shirt, snickering with others in the break room. Let's hope the miracle doesn't try to review my expense reports. I just smiled politely, kept my head high, and breathed. I thought of my daughter, Zoe, and the little drawing on our fridge labeled, "My Hero." My first real assignment was reviewing Derek Finch's cross-quarter expenses. He gave me a look, a challenge, not an opportunity. But I spent the weekend buried in spreadsheets, and I found it. 7 major discrepancies. Lunches for 2 when the trip was solo, fictional client meetings. I printed my findings and put them right on his desk. Finch laughed, a low, dry, condescending sound. "You sure about all this, Vance?" I was positive. By 3:30 that afternoon, Derek Finch was escorted out by security. My mentor, Miss Penelope, appeared at my desk. "You didn't just catch a mistake, Ilara. You caught a pattern." But the rot went deeper than Finch. An old director, Ava Jennings, sent me an anonymous email. Subject: be careful. Body: some things are meant to stay buried, but if you keep digging, don't do it alone. Soon after, she resigned mysteriously. I found my father's old filing cabinet. Inside was a flash drive and a note in his trembling handwriting. Burke was just the face. Followed the papers. They buried it deep, but not all of them know it's still breathing. Protect yourself. I played the audio file from 2004, my father's voice, rough with age and fear. My mistake was thinking the lies ended with Burke. Vaughn Industries, hell, maybe even higher. This thing runs deeper. And I think they're using black staff, janitors, clerks as a cover. People no one watches, people like me. The words hit me hard. This wasn't just my story, it was my father's unfinished legacy. Then the CFO, Vivian Albright, called me into her office. Vivian, who always wore pearls and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She stalked around the table like a teacher circling a cheating student. Curiosity can become obsession, Miss Vance, and obsession, if left unchecked, becomes delusion. She slid a redacted document across the table, my old cleaning record, with the note about the unauthorized executive hallway. You've come far, but far enough. I stood, trembling but with a new fire. You know what the problem with silence is, Miss Albright? It makes people think they're safe, until someone finally speaks. Miss Penelope and I discovered a chain of shell companies tied to Victor Klein's old ghost accounts. We tracked the address of one company to a storage unit leased under the alias of Victor Klein's old assistant. The pipeline was still alive. Then I found the final piece, a photograph in my father's papers, a younger Vivian Albright, standing right behind Gavin Ross, the man who originally ruined my father, at a shareholders' dinner in 2002. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was personal. 2 days later, I was standing in the boardroom, facing Vivian. "I wanted to give you the chance to explain before everything goes public," I said. She chuckled softly. "Do you really think exposing me is going to change this place? I didn't build the rot, Ilara. I just learned how to survive in it. That's the difference between us." "No," I replied. "The difference is you accepted the rot. I didn't. People like us don't build legacies on stolen bones." As she rose to leave, defeated, she turned back to me. "I'm not the only one behind the curtain, Ilara." Vivian was gone, but the pressure intensified. My key card failed, the elevator stalled, then an anonymous note on my desk. "Be careful what truth you think you're holding." My IT friend, Jamal, scanned my login. "Someone mirrored your access, Ilara, from the executive floor, specifically Sterling Thorne's office." My mind reeled. Had I been fighting for the wrong man? I confronted Sterling. I showed him the old transfers to his cousin, Elias Thorne, the deals he signed off on 13 years ago. I demanded to know, did you profit? Sterling looked at me, weary, raw. "I signed off on those documents. Yes, I was young, trusting. When I found out what my brother and cousin did, I forced them out. You think I haven't paid for it? My marriage is gone. My board barely respects me. I spent 10 years cleaning this company from the inside." He stepped forward. "I am not your enemy, Ilara, but if you think I am, walk out now. I won't stop you." I didn't move. I didn't know what to believe yet, but I knew where to find the truth. Jamal and I discovered the new threat, Sharon Wells, the interim head of legal. We found security footage of her accessing the archives. She wasn't just cleaning up debris, she was rewriting the crime scene. Sharon had cloned Sterling's login and was framing him for everything, creating doctored emails to make it look like he oversaw the cover-up. She planned to let the king fall so she could seize control. Sterling called me into his office, his tie loosened. "She wants a vote, Ilara. She filed a motion last night to have me removed. claims I greenlit everyone. I pulled the flash drive from my jacket and put it on his desk. She cloned your login. We have the logs and the video. At the emergency board meeting, Sharon Wells presented her case, confident, composed, damning. Then, Miss Penelope stood. I regret to inform you that Miss Wells has been conducting a secondary operation. I clicked the projector. Security footage rolled, Sharon sneaking in. Then came the keystroke logs, the video, the side-by-side timestamp overlays of the documents she drafted accusing Sterling. The room went silent. Sharon rose slowly, defeated. You just given this company back to a man who signed off on crimes. No, I said from the back of the room. We're giving it to the truth. 3 weeks later, the storm had passed. I was standing outside the newly christened Elijah Wentz Integrity Center, a mentorship wing built into the 7th floor for overlooked workers. Sterling had promoted me to Director of Internal Oversight. I had one last piece of business. Jamal and I traced a forgotten account to Elias Thorne, Sterling's cousin, the last piece of the original conspiracy. He was arrested at the airport. I watched from behind the glass as the past finally caught him. I didn't smile. I just turned and walked away. That morning, at home, Zoe was eating cereal. I poured my coffee and the radio host was talking about corporate America's hidden heroes. Zoe looked up. Mom, were you scared? I smiled softly. Every day, baby. She frowned. Then why did you do it? I knelt beside her. Because when people pretend not to see what's wrong, bad things grow, and someone has to stop pretending. Zoe chewed slowly, then nodded, solemn. You're kind of like Batman. I laughed. Maybe more like Alfred, I thought. We sat there in the quiet kitchen. I went from being invisible to being the most watched person in the Citadel, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Courage doesn't always roar, my friends. Sometimes it whispers in the quiet acts of those we overlook. I was a maid who paid attention, and that attention changed everything. Now I want to hear from you. We took down the partner, the CFO, the new legal head, and even the cousin. But was Sterling Thorne truly a hero, or just a survivor cleaning up his own mess? Do you think my father's legacy is truly avenged, or is there always someone else behind the curtain? Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think about justice and the quiet acts of resistance. And if you believe that sometimes the ones with the lowest title have the highest integrity, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories.